how are you?
I am great. I'm super excited to be doing our first workshop
Yes.
to our special parents out there. And we are calling our program Special Perspective.
Special perspective. So tell me, Ula, a little bit about your journey into Blenderized Diet.
Well, I have a son who's 12 years old and he has cerebral palsy. And he's on G-Tube. I give him Blenderized Diet.
Okay, that's amazing. And my story is quite similar to yours. My son is 9.5 years old, and he also has cerebral palsy, and he also had gastric feeding tube. And I, inspired by you, my mentor, that I started Blenderized Diet, and I have never turned around and looked back, and I'm very happy that I did. So thank you for introducing me Blenderized Diet. So I wanted this episode special for us because you introduced me to this diet, and tell us your journey.
I was also introduced by another mother. Her name is Pamela. I can never forget when she mentioned this to me. Almost the first year when my son was born. But I was so scared at that point to switch to something that I didn't know. I had already a lot in my plate and I couldn't add anything else on it, especially with all the feeding issues that my son has and the vomiting and the constipation and all those problems. I could not do any change in his diet. But then at one point, I realized that that's it. I couldn't go on with the formula anymore. And I finally made that decision 3 years after meeting that mom to go see her, to see how she's doing it and starting the whole process.
That's very interesting. My story is quite similar as well. I remember it took you a couple of years to convince me to get Zen on Blenderized Diet. My journey was, again, coming from the same fear as yours, a little bit added more because Zen was on ketogenic diet at that time. And knowing how sensitive the diet is, I was very afraid to make any changes. Just the fear itself of the unknown was the worst. And I think transitioning from that period, it took me some time, but the moment I realized how important his food is, Zen was starting to eat orally a little bit, so I experimented with real food with him, and I think that's what gave me the push. And eventually, yes, it took me about 3 years to, finally see the whole picture. And I agree that once you start giving regular food, healthy food, not only our kids are healthier and happier, we are actually we have more time on our hands, to enjoy them and also to be part of their nutrition as well, because it's important. Their fruits, vegetables, grains, seasonal vegetables and fruits, if they're not digesting that in proper time, over time, body takes longer to digest certain things. You build resistance towards certain foods as well. So it's important to introduce real foods, yes, slowly, but it's totally doable. And I'm very happy that I got the opportunity to do it.
What other benefits you think it made in Zen's life?
Zen just seems healthy. His bowel movement was better. His input was much better. His reflux was so much better. He wasn't vomiting as much anymore. Also, I realized that with different foods, that certain foods at certain time of the year, given a certain way, can be more medicinal. When he's constipated, I know now what to give him. I just give him some milk with molasses for a few days, and he's regular. I can do prunes. I can do different things. And having food as an option versus medication that was giving more side effects and more complications was more work, actually. It seems an easy Band-Aid solution in the beginning, and sometimes you do need it because that's the only way for you to survive, whatever circumstances you are in. We all have different phases of life we go through. And when you think you're ready to deal with it and you're ready to learn something about it, I think you should definitely look into it. And I know from my experience, I got a lot of resistance from healthcare providers. They were not as helpful in terms of guiding me in anything. Some of them even tried stopping me from starting Blenderized Diet with Zen, saying that he's not going to be healthy, he's not going to gain weight. But I had to think, put my thinking hat on, and think from this perspective. If I was a child, if I was myself, and I needed to gain weight, what would I do? I would go after foods that are healthier in rich fats, and does he need more carbs today because he's feeling more energetic? He hasn't moved much. He's feeling sick. Maybe I can give him some lighter fluid, some clear fluid. So I can make that decision more based on food versus on medication. We make less hospital visits.
I can totally agree with that as benefits. I agree with most of the benefits that you have mentioned. I have experienced them too when I switched from formula to Blenderized Diet. The constipation, as you mentioned, was completely disappeared. The reflux, the vomiting also stopped. It took faster and faster to feed my son. He was able to gain more weight. I was able to give him healthier food that, as you mentioned, help heal other health issues that he has anyways. So it might look like opening a can, something that's faster than doing the Blenderized Diet, but then when you get into it and you realize how many other issues you resolve on the way, you start saving time that you were spending with opening a can quickly, but then having other long side
That's right.
effects that you had to deal with, and that take a lot of time as well.
Absolutely, yeah. You have to you have to keep in count the bigger picture is how much time in totality is going towards just their
Plus the
gastric
quality as
issues.
well, not only the
Absolutely.
time. Yes,
The quality as well, and how your child is versus. In my personal experience, I can speak that I found Zen was more alert, more healthy. His skin color was better. His
yes,
skin tone was much better. He was more alert. He was digesting more food. I was able to transition him from softer foods to a little bit harder food faster. I could even increase the volume of his food. So I realized that there's a lot that I can do.
a lot of flexibility.
Flexibility, yes, absolutely. And also for all those parents whose kids are on ketogenic diet, it's totally doable with it too. We can do a separate segment on it some other time in future. But just to give you hope in terms of whether it's doable or not, yes, we did it. And we did it for 8.5 years for Zen very successfully. And we can totally, and it's much easier because food is available everywhere for us. Versus a can that's not
Definitely.
available. And
Totally true. When traveling, wherever you are, typical food is everywhere comparing to having
absolutely.
to find a formula. You don't have to worry about the cost, having it covered. You can just use your regular food. And not only that, it made me feel so good and so not guilty that I'm giving him healthy food, natural, like, and he's eating like everybody else. Whatever
Absolutely.
we are eating, he could be eating, comparing to him having like a medication, almost like his nutrition,
Yeah,
a so-called like
absolutely.
a
And it's like
prescription.
even normalizing your life
Yes.
and your child's life because no longer, he or she has to eat something that's coming from a pantry in a can versus it's getting cooked just like anybody else's food. My food is
And it's
getting
picked
cooked.
from the grass.
Grocery, I'm going
Yes.
grocery shopping today with mom and she's picking up the same food she picks up for everybody else. And
Yes.
today we all gonna eat baked potato and chicken and
Yes.
vegetables and I'll get to eat the same food. So it's actually inclusion and I think it's very important. Normalizing yourself, your child. You can go to the restaurants. Some restaurants do serve some soups that are just water-based. Once you're comfortable giving G2 feeds, you have options even when you're outside somewhere to feed your child. So it's definitely a step towards a very good direction.
Why do you think doctors don't really encourage parents to do the Blenderized diet, or more correctly, they scare parents to do the Blenderized diet?
I think you have to understand that when you go ask a doctor, that even though our perception is going to a doctor and getting a healthcare provider's opinion, at the end of the day, they do work for an organization. And like any other organization, they all work on cost benefit analysis. So everything to them is a dollar figure. So does truly who really care for your child's health other than you do? So you have to analyze that in your own lifestyle. If this is the lifestyle you're choosing for your child, then you have to advocate yourself. And you have to understand the doctor will only provide what they can guarantee. They can guarantee what's in the can. But what they cannot guarantee is how you're going to blend that feed. There's time that goes in, then credibility that goes in, then training that goes in, and then that means all those post-its needs to be filled. So there's a lot of cost affiliated to as well.
And politics,
and absolutely. And overall, the doctors, their job is to go for consultation. They're not there 24/7 to care for your medical care. That having a child with needs, or even yourself with any kind of needs, you have to take that responsibility upon yourself. Especially in the information age, we have no excuse not to. And so you have to take care of your own health in your own hands to make that decision that, do I choose this lifestyle or not? And if you do, then you learn to advocate. And the best way to do it is to take things in your hands. There's a lot of countries that actually do provide Blenderized Diet as a nutrition in hospitals. For example, in States, they recognize that as a diet.
Well, in Canada as well, finally sick kids, just for people to know, which is a good news. Is that comparing to where we started, where they were scaring us away from it. Absolutely. At least now they're starting to do research about it to show the benefits.
And you know what I do when sometimes I'm in the hospital with Zen and he's just feeling too sick even to eat anything, and I didn't bring enough Blenderized food with me. Sometimes I tell them to send me just the baby food jars. I even push that to the G-tube. I mean, they're purees, but to me, that is still better than giving him anything that's coming out of a can that I cannot taste or smell because it makes me feel nauseous. So if that is not how the kids are supposed to drink and eat, then I should not be feeding. If I'm not eating it, then I'm not feeding them. That's how I think. And so I think putting them on healthy food diet is definitely very important.
I also would like to let the mothers know that think this is a hard thing to do. It takes a lot of time. I'm not able to do it. I'm not sure with my son's specific health issues whether it's doable or not. My son is in a ketogenic diet. To all those, doubts or question marks, I would say that I already managed to do it in a way now that it doesn't take time at all. I give all the veggies, as we'll be showing in the kitchen. They're all raw. You don't need to cook except the meat, which can be cooked in any way, boiled, steamed, or even from whatever meat you cooked for yourself.
Absolutely.
But everything else is just veggies, an apple, some nuts, something healthy. So that it doesn't take time to make it at all. You can pre-portion it in the fridge or even in the freezer.
Absolutely.
If you don't want to make it every day. But if I do personally right now make it every day, and it doesn't take time.
Oh, yeah.
And, just 15 minutes preparations. The thing that needs cooking, I portion it in the freezer like the meat. But everything else is just in my fridge. Take it and cut it. Scale it quickly.
It also gives you some opportunity. Sometimes you get a different type of vegetable in the fridge and you want to use it. Might as well just throw that in the feed as well. So, those are all great, very good points.
And the blending is maybe less than 5 minutes to blend it. And there is absolutely, I think one of the issues that doctor keep mentioning is clogging the tube. So this is definitely one of the things that scares people. That means they're going to have to go to the ER if they have a G-tube that is clogged. But so far, I don't think I've ever had the G-tube clogged if the blend was done in the right way, which is not a big deal.
Yeah, same here. In my experience either. I'm quite happy with my blender. So let's head towards the kitchen and let's show everybody how quickly we can prepare the Blenderized food for our kids.
Okay, so we were gonna show you how we blend this. So we can just take, with clean hands, take the meat that's cooked, just throw everything in here, in the Vitamix. You don't even have to cut really. The broccoli, raw broccoli, no problem. The machine blends everything. Raw carrots, the same thing here. Some ginger, turmeric, some spinach, super healthy, and it's something, that each ingredient you can learn how to play with ingredients and just use this to heal all the other issues of the kids. If you have constipation, you can do something for it. If you have diarrhea, you can do something for it.
And
if
during
you have,
colds, when your kids
for
are suffering
seizures,
from colds.
for the cold, for any health problem, for reflux, for whatever health problem that you have, you can search what is it that is natural and healthy and helps heal that issue and throw it in the blender. 5 minutes to cut the apple, the broccoli, the meat. I bring it from the freezer the night before so it melts, so it's already cooked. Just throw everything in there. That's super easy. 1 cup of water. The oil, I usually prefer to leave it until the end, right before serve it, so it stays fresh. So I leave it until the end. I put like this, and then you go to the Vitamix. You cover it. And you do, I usually do 5 times, 6 times, 30 quick numbers, 30 seconds. But the new Vitamix, they have already even a pre-measured set. So basically...
Yeah, basically you just need to find the consistency that you think is working for you, basically, right? So you have to play around some ingredients sometimes. The ginger is a little bit raw, so you might have to blend it a little bit longer.
But the whole thing is not more than 5 minutes anyways.
It takes less than 5 minutes to prepare and have the food ready to be served.
Yeah, and another 5 minutes max to
and then we'll just blend it.
Yeah, so the Vitamix works in a way that's a little bit different than regular machines. It works by pulses. It's not like you turn on and you leave it. So you turn on from here and you turn off this way. So I turn on, it's gonna be very noisy. And I go slowly all the way up to 10. Then I bring this up and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 30 seconds, 30 numbers, and I stop. And I repeat that 6 times. So here you go, up. So I stop. Okay. What I also do just for the first time, since things are still there, I just take a spatula here.
Here, take this one, Ula.
I just take a spatula and make sure I bring down the foods here on the side, just in case something popped up, so it gets blended. Only for the first time, or maybe the first or second. It depends. You're gonna see very quickly. I brought everything down. And then we're doing the second set of the blending. 30 numbers. Go up. Slowly all the way to 10. That's my 13 number, second round. And you do this again for another 4 times. I do it 6 times in total. And then that's it. So I'll do number 6. I just finished my number 6 blend. So now I'm sure it's completely blended well.
And this is also a good way to give them extra fluids in the day, because a lot of kids need extra fluids, water. Since you're putting a cup of water, they're also getting some liquid with their meal.
Okay. And the Vitamix is also super easy to clean.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, to clean this, you just put some water, blend it for 10 seconds.
Yeah, and I even put a little bit of soap in there and I just blend it. I let the soap kind of go everywhere in the jug and it rinses right away.
Easiest blender to clean. And then once you're done, you can just add your oil here. What I want to explain that this is not formula. This is the healthy food. So the formula, because it's really heavy on the stomach and it's not good for it, you give a little bit, it makes them throw up.
Yes.
So, but this one here, even though it looks big, but your child will tolerate this
much better.
Much better.
And also there you can play around with recipes. My son was on keto diet, so the volume was not the issue. His blends were very small, maybe half a cup, and he was getting what he needed. So there are different ways to kind of make the food more higher in calorie, less in volume, but then you're taking the water away. So you have options, but the point is your child will not feel this as too much volume to feel that they have reflux. They will digest this much better.
Much better.
The vegetables are pretty much almost raw. The only cooking the blender did is with the speed. So the way the food breaks down in the stomach versus it breaks any kind of synthetic food is completely different.
And this is obviously lunch, which is the biggest meal. If we do blend these one, it's much smaller quantity. And the other thing also, the recipe will have to change depending on the age of the child. My child is 12. So as you can see, when you look at the plate, it looks like a regular plate that any 12 years old kid will have, but obviously when you blend it, the quantity might look bigger, but it's not really as you saw from the plate. We can help if anybody is not sure how to get started, what quantity, how much, calorie count, we can definitely help.
Absolutely.
For that, if you contact us, and we're not nutritionists, we're not professional, but we can give you some ideas of what worked for us.
That's right.
And you can always review with your nutritionist after, and they can help you make the final decision of what works for your kid.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of different foods that are very high, rich in nutrients and health, depending on the seasonal fruits and vegetables. You can incorporate that in their meals. You will also find you'll spend less time figuring out what to cook for them versus anytime you open your fridge, whatever you see, you'll know what to put together. It'll be 2 seconds. And also, even if you're traveling, it's much easier because real food is available everywhere in the world.
That was my biggest problem with formula when I go away.
Yeah,
I could not
how do you
find
travel?
it. I had to travel with luggages of it. But now wherever I go, I never have to worry, what am I going to feed my kid?
Absolutely.
It's all everywhere. Wherever you go, there is natural food.
There's natural food.
Yeah.
And it's the healthier way to eat. And, we learned it through our experience that our lives in totality got better with our kids and their health got better with the Blenderized diet. And we just want this message for other parents to understand that even though it seemed very impossible and difficult for me, I remember when Ula mentioned this to me, but the moment I jumped on Blenderized diet, I never turned around, I never looked back. And not only that, I want every child to experience this because I think it's one of the best and healthiest way. And we're always here to help any parents if they have any questions, concerns. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other experienced moms out there who are watching our video today. And if you want to join us and help us out too, you're most welcome to. We would love to get ideas from everywhere.